Tia Mal Fascia, 100,000 welcomes. And welcome to Vaucluse House and to this ceremony where we're about to witness the marriage of Peter and Ruth. Now it's a happy occasion. Smiles, laughter, applause are all compulsory. My name's David Courtney, and I'm duly authorised by law to solemnise marriages according to law. I'm a landowner in the Highlands of Scotland. I hold the honorary title of the Laird of Lochaber, and I wear the tartan of the Clan Fraser, the clan of my ancestors. And at this time, let me introduce the other members of the bridal party. To the right of our beautiful bride, we have the bridesmaids, Kathy A. Young, excuse me with the pronunciation, Madeleine Max, and Jasmine Ritchie. Peter is supported by his best person, Pamela Kotaris, and junior best person, Zane Ritchie. Family and friends, on behalf of Peter and Ruth, I have pleasure in welcoming you all here to their special day. Peter Michael Woodley and Ruth Ann Ritchie, before you are joined in marriage in my presence and in the presence of these witnesses, I am to remind you of the solemn and binding nature of the relationship into which you are now about to enter. Marriage, according to law in Australia, is the union of a man and a woman to the exclusion of all others, voluntarily entered into for life. Now, some of you may know a little bit about Peter and Ruth. Some of you may know too much about them. But I've made some inquiries and I can reveal the following brief facts. They first met at Sydney Uni in 1995. During a class on medieval history and introductory archaeology, Ruth espied a lonely-looking classmate and introduced herself. They became friends and hung out together in archaeology lectures, and on a Tuesday evening after Ruth's Shakespeare class, they would drive back to Ryde, and Ruth would drop Peter off at his nana's. But they subsequently lost touch for a few years, meeting again in Cambodia, of all places, in 2012. Peter was there working as an archaeologist, while Ruth was on a history teacher's study tour to Angkor. Ruth was admiring the view in Siem Peep, hope that's right, when she heard her name being called out by Peter. What an amazing coincidence, given that they live in adjoining Sydney suburbs, but they had to go all the way to Cambodia to find each other. Some differing personality traits which they have in common is that Ruth is always on time, and she certainly was today, while the same can't always be said for Peter. Now, Peter is about to discover what all married men know, the two biggest lies in the world. The first biggest lie is the check's in the mail. The second biggest lie is when a man's wife says to him, "I won't be long, dear." Peter considers small details are important, while Ruth adheres to Aussie philosophy by saying, "Sure, we're right, mate." Peter is often shy and quiet, while Ruth is not. And when shortly they come to take their vows, Peter would really like obey to feature. I don't think so. So that's just a little bit about Peter and Ruth. When I was a young lad in Scotland, my mum liked to cook some breakfast food for our evening meal now and again. And don't ask me why, because I don't know. I remember one night when she'd put in a long day at work, She cooked some bacon, egg, and sausages for my dad, and alongside that meal, she placed some very burnt toast. I remember watching my dad's face as he ate his meal, and then smeared butter and jam onto that very disgusting piece of toast. He ate every bit of it. It was then that Mum apologised to him for having burnt the toast. "Don't worry about it," he said. "I like a bit of burnt toast now and again." And later that night, as he tucked me into bed, I asked Dad if he really liked burnt toast. He said to me, "Your mum's very tired tonight. She's had a hard day at work, and besides, a little bit of burnt toast never hurt anyone." As I've grown older, I've thought about that many times. Life is full of imperfect things and imperfect people, and occasionally we may have to eat some burnt toast and to accept each other's faults. Better to celebrate our differences, eat some burnt toast, and create a healthy, loving relationship. Peter and Ruth love and respect their parents and treasure the important part they have played and will continue to play in their lives. In honour of this, Alan, Peter and Elsie, do you give your love and blessing to your children? I'd now like to hand the microphone over to Ruth, who is going to give a reading from Shakespeare's sonnet number 116.
Peter composed a beautiful piece of music for me during the signing that will happen shortly, and I just wanted to say a special poem to him in return. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. I know, it is an ever-fixed mark, that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's full, though rosy lips and cheeks, with fingers bending sickles compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out, even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon be proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
Thanks, Ruth. Nowadays, when a couple in love wish to marry, they undergo a ceremony such as this. But it wasn't always so. Up until the 17th century in Scotland, a couple in love could undergo a hand-fasting ceremony. The term hand-fasting comes from the Norse handfesta, which means to strike a bargain by the joining of hands.